In ramping your brand, that little book I keep talking about, I talk about two master KPIs: same store velocity growth and repeat purchase. These are KPIs that many new founders either ignore or they never focus on at all. Instead, they get sucked into a pure distribution growth model. Doors, doors, doors. If you treat acceptance by Unifier Kehi as some great congressional honor, no wonder you follow a distributor-led strategy. Trust me, it's no honor. They love tiny brands as long as they do what they say they're going to do and ship. It definitely won't feel like an honor the first time you have to dispute bogus chargebacks and deductions. Okay? So growing simply by adding doors is the distributor-led model. It's how they think as a trucking company. I don't blame them. Smart brokers, however, know how to overlay a velocity performance approach to adding those doors. Strategically, a tiny few brokers. But most of them will cave to the distributor mindset because they have the same financial incentive. More cases equals more money. And if that's your incentive, strategy can get in the way. At some point, though, you realize that not every store is the same in terms of volume for your business. Every new founder of the industry goes through this terrifying realization at some point. And this appears on your very first sell-in reports from distributors. You may think this is related entirely to your product's interest level locally. Alas, no, it is not just tied to that. Once your business gets into the seven figures, that's a pretty big achievement, you'll see the effect of store traffic variation on your numbers, and you'll start to wonder. And this is the little discussed fact that drives the calculation of something scanner data companies and the pros call all commodity volume, or ACV. Now, ACV is a weighted measure of distribution. So for every percentage point of ACV, you get an absolute dollar volume amount sold within the chosen channel. That's what the point means. A point connects to monies. And also, that calculation is specific to a chosen time period, geography and time period. Annual ACV and quad-week ACV for slow-moving brands can and often does show a marked difference in numbers because a UPC, a single one, doesn't contribute to your brand's total ACV if it doesn't sell at all at a store in that geography during the period. So its effective distribution may plummet. For example, if it just sits there for a month or more, right? So a high traffic, high dollar volume store location contributes a lot more ACV than a low dollar volume store, which has a lot of your UPCs just sitting there for periods, for quads and quads. Now, in all outlet data, of course, one store location is like a tiny fraction of a percent of ACV, let's be honest. So in regional data sets, when the chain of, 95 stores, each store moves the needle in your data. But not so much when you get into larger chain systems that are nationwide in the thousands. So think of ACV percentages simply as a percent of distribution breadth within a specific channel or a set of channels. It helps address, this KPI, ACV, helps address how widely available you actually are and how close you are to the maximum number of available households in the channel or that set of channels, the ones who shop in those channels. Now, there's a very simple calculation you can do as your business grows to understand how powerful a beast you have created. In other words, how efficiently you are generating monies. There's actually a couple ways to do this, but this is the super simple way before you get big, to know whether or not you have a super efficient business. In the 2010s, the big surge in premium CPG skate ramp brands that inspired the book you see behind me exhibited a phenomenal amount of financial efficiency with very low amounts of MULO or FMCG distribution breadth in terms of ACV percentages. On average, the most impressive skate ramp brands generate, I kid you not, $3 to $5 million of revenue for every percentage point of nationwide all outlet ACV. Okay, this means that they are able to get to $100 million with tons of upside in terms of distribution breadth. Investors love brands like this and they hunt for them, trust me, because they're rare. This is the benchmark that I use with my most ambitious clients, and one that dozens and dozens of now famous skate ramp brands have generated as they cross the $100 million trailing point of sale revenues threshold. Look, the brands that hit this benchmark form an elite crowd. That's kind of obvious. So most of you aren't going to reach it. But striving for it is actually the most important thing, because it forces you to think about building a crazy fan base near the stores where you are selling. Also, this benchmark has been hit way too many times for it merely to be some lightning strike thing. It isn't. You can plan to achieve this and drive your team's execution to do it in snacks and beverages. And I'm throwing in alcohol while I'm in there. But probably not spirits. So bringing in this much revenue per point of average annual ACV, in a past 52-week context, requires a strong innovation tied to a mass market outcome, all right? And B, a disciplined founder and sales team focused on optimal zip codes first, where your ideal audience is going to be, and then the optimal banners in those zip codes. And C, extensive amount of time, labor time, and probably some money spent out of the store to drive brand awareness growth ahead of distribution, so that when you're appearing, people have already been primed and you unlock really fast trial. The underlying key is a strong understanding of your optimal target audience or audiences to drive price-insensitive repeat purchasing for your thingamajiggy in the right zip codes. It's unnecessary, in my view, to spend an absolute fortune on field marketing to hit this benchmark, but you will have to spend at least labor time. So if you're just some solo founder working by yourself, even out of a van, I don't think it's going to happen. But I wouldn't assume you can ride, a skinny pop wave of enthusiasm that didn't use any of those marketing techniques. That was, let's be clear, an impressive but probably anomalous feat of market timing that was incredibly lucky. Plus, a gargantuan feat of visual merchandising at places like Whole Foods that you're unlikely to obtain anymore. At all. Those were the good old days. Instead, you're going to need to spend a lot of time and money at a store to seed word of mouth and hand out samples, right? And this can be done for much less than national TV ad campaigns. Which started, I don't know, 5 million plus these days. Probably 10 million when you throw in the agency fees. But the real key is to make sure that you are adding doors with a high density of your ideal audience, not just 4,000 Walmart supercenters because some buyer, I don't know, got off on your pitch. That's not strategic selling. The reality is that 4,000 Walmart doors can't match. For premium price businesses still, it cannot match the door-to-door revenue creating efficiency of a well-chosen supermarket chain, right? Like H-E-B for premium price CPG brands. In turn, this approach I'm talking about with high dollar revenue per point of ACV requires an approach to sales that is extremely selective early on and strategic, and then it'll get less so as you grow. And this allows you to garner more and more attention, the right audience, and interest amongst the retail trade. So 3 million per point of MULO ACV. Print this metric on your office wall and stare at it each morning. You may not hit it right away. You may not hit it at all. But I have plenty of clients who've gotten to 1.5 and 2 million. And that itself is incredibly impressive level of efficiency. And committing to this kind of high benchmark early on is going to force you and your team, if you're a good leader, to build a smarter plan and to engage in a tougher self-diagnosis every year. All right, if you enjoyed this episode, please hit the subscribe button to the bottom right of the video to be the first to see new Startup Confidential episodes on YouTube and all my other founder tips content. And remember, as always, be safe out there.
Thanks for listening. Remember, Dr. Richardson has loads of resources for founders at premiumgrowthsolutions.com.